Vivid verses.
My relationship with Bianca was a bridge with a fracture. I ignored it because the location was good and the toll revenue was high. But eventually, the wind blows. People think I ended a 2-year relationship over a car. That's the headline. That's what Bianca probably told her friends over margaritas. He dumped me because I liked a picture of a Range Rover. It sounds petty when you reduce it to that. But you and I both know that in business, and relationships are the most critical business you'll ever run. There is no such thing as an isolated incident. There are only data points. The Range Rover was just the data point that crashed the model. To understand why I walked away, you have to understand the operational overhead of the preceding 24 months. This didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened in a high-rent apartment in downtown that was already stretching the limits of what I consider responsible allocation of resources. When Bianca and I first merged our lives, the prospectus looked good. She was organized. She had a career in marketing. She seemed to understand the value of a dollar. We had a conversation early on about building an empire. I interpreted that as asset accumulation and compound interest. She, it turned out, interpreted it as visual dominance and status signaling. The discrepancy didn't show up in the quarterly reports immediately. It was a slow bleed. It started with the grocery bill. We agreed to split household consumables. Suddenly, the bill doubled. We weren't eating more. We were just eating better brands. The organic berries that cost $9. The artisanal bread. I ran the numbers and realized we were spending 15% more for a nutritional difference that was statistically negligible. When I pointed this out, she called me rigid. Then came the furniture. When we moved in, I had a perfectly functional leather sofa. It was paid for. It was comfortable. She wanted a beige sectional because it fit the aesthetic of a new place. I argued that the ROI on a new couch was zero. She argued that the ROI was happiness. I conceded. I paid $2,400 for a couch that I was afraid to sit on if I was wearing dark denim. That was the pattern. She would present a desire as a necessity. I would present a cost-benefit analysis. She would use emotional leverage to override the analysis. I would pay to avoid the friction. By the time we got to that Tuesday, I was already fatigued. I was carrying the mental load of managing a logistics firm during a global supply chain crisis, and I was coming home to manage the emotional load of a partner who viewed our bank account as a magic replenishing pool. It was 7:45 p.m. I was on the couch, the beige one. I had the quarterly projections for the firm open on my laptop. We're facing a potential 12% hike in fuel surcharges next quarter due to geopolitical instability in the shipping lanes. I was running 3 different scenarios. One where we absorb the cost to keep volume high, one where we pass it to the client and risk churn, and a hybrid model. I needed to know the break-even point for each to the decimal. The room was quiet. We have a good setup. Open floor plan, floor-to-ceiling windows. It's the one luxury I justified because I work from home often and I need the headspace. Bianca was on the other end of the sectional. She had been home for an hour. She works in marketing, specifically social media coordination for a fashion brand. Her job is literally to look at what other people have and sell the idea that you need it too. She was scrolling. I know the sound of her scrolling. Swipe pause. Swipe pause. It's a dopamine loop. I was deep in a spreadsheet cell, calculating the impact of a 3% margin erosion when she exhaled. It was a sharp, performative exhale, the kind that isn't a bodily function, but a request for attention. I didn't bite immediately. I finished the formula. Then I looked up. "What is it?" I asked. She turned the phone toward me. On the screen was a photo of Sarah. "You remember Sarah? She's the one who had the birthday dinner at the place where the appetizers cost $40 and tasted like foam. Sarah works in PR. She's married to a guy named Dave who works in commercial real estate sales. In the photo, Sarah is leaning against a white Range Rover. There's a red bow on the hood the size of a beach ball. The caption was likely paragraphs long, filled with emojis, talking about being blessed and spoiled. Clean-looking car, I said. I'm in it. It's a nice machine. Poor reliability ratings after 50,000 miles, and the depreciation curve is a vertical drop, but aesthetically, it's pleasing. Bianca pulled the phone back. She stared at the image for another few seconds, letting the envy marinate. It must be nice, she said. Her tone was level, but the subtext was screaming. To have a man with that kind of ambition. I need you to pause and analyze that sentence. She didn't say, I wish we had a car like that. She didn't say, Sarah is so lucky. She connected the possession of a luxury asset directly to the character trait of her partner. She equated ambition, a drive to achieve, build, and conquer, with the act of purchasing a depreciating liability for a spouse. It's a specific type of manipulation. It's a challenge. It targets the provider instinct. It suggests that if I am not providing a Range Rover, I am lacking in drive. It implies that Dave, the guy who bought the car, is a better man. I know Dave. We've had drinks. I know for a fact Dave is leveraged. The commercial real estate market is soft right now. His commission checks are volatile. He's the type of guy who leases a watch to wear to a closing. That car isn't a sign of wealth. It's a sign of a lease agreement he probably stressed over for a week. But Bianca doesn't see the lease agreement. She sees the Instagram post. She confuses liquidity with solvency. I felt a shift in my chest. Not anger. It was colder than that. It was the sensation of a switch flipping. It was the realization that the woman sitting across from me didn't see me as a partner. She saw me as a capped utility. Most guys mess this up. They get insecure. They say, I'm ambitious. I work 60 hours a week. They start listing their accomplishments. They try to win the argument on her terms. If you do that, you lose. You've accepted the premise that your worth is tied to her consumption. I leaned back. I closed the laptop halfway. I looked her in the eye. Comparison is the thief of joy, Bianca, I said. I kept my voice flat. Professional. She blinked. She was expecting a fight, or an apology, or a promise. If a Range Rover is a priority for you, I continued, I'd be happy to help you look over your budget to see how you can save for one. I watched the words land. It was a masterstroke of framing. I validated the desire, but shifted the ownership. If it is a priority for you, not for us, for you. I offered resources, not capital. I offer my skill, budgeting, not my money. I treated her as an independent agent. If she wants it, she can earn it. The air left the room. That's not the point, Nolan, she said. Her voice went up an octave. What is the point? The point is the gesture. It's about taking care of things. Sarah's husband clearly values her enough to give her the best. Sarah's husband is in sales, I said. He lives on commission. He's buying optics. You're looking at a highlight reel and confusing it with a balance sheet. Do you know if they're maxing their 401ks? Do you know if they have 6 months of liquidity? No. You just see the car. You always do this, she said. She stood up. You turn everything into a transaction. A car is a transaction, Bianca. It involves a credit check, an interest rate, and insurance. You are asking me to enter a bad transaction to validate your social standing relative to Sarah. She walked to the window. She was looking out at the city lights. I knew what she was thinking. She was thinking about how she would explain this conversation to her friends. She was trying to find the angle where I'm the villain. I don't want your help with my budget, she said. Okay, then we don't need to talk about it. She went to the bedroom. She slammed the door. Not hard enough to crack the frame, but hard enough to make a point. I didn't follow her. I opened my laptop again. I looked at the fuel surcharge spreadsheet. The numbers were clear. Logic is comforting that way. 2 plus 2 is always 4. Then I opened a new tab. I pulled up our household tracking sheet. I looked at the trend lines. Since we moved in together, my savings rate had dropped by 18%. Not because I was earning less. I was earning more, but because the joint expenses kept climbing. Use of Uber Black instead of Uber X because it smells better. The impulse purchases for the apartment. The weekend trips to reconnect that cost $1,000 a pop. I projected this out over 5 years. 10 years. If I married this woman, the Range Rover incident wouldn't be an anomaly. It would be the baseline. Today it's a car. Tomorrow it's a house in a zip code we can't afford. Then it's private school tuition because Sarah's kids go there. I would spend the rest of my life on a treadmill, running to catch a carrot that she keeps moving while she stands on the sidelines critiquing my pace. I looked at the ambition comment again in my mind. She weaponized my masculinity against my financial prudence. She tried to shame me into spending. That is a hostile act. In business, if a partner tries to embezzle from you, you fire them. If a partner tries to undermine your strategy to satisfy their ego, you buy them out. She wasn't embezzling money, but she was embezzling my peace. She was embezzling my future security for her present vanity. I sat there for 2 hours. I ran the numbers. The lease break fee was 2 months' rent. The moving cost would be roughly $1,500. The cost of furniture replacement would be maybe $5,000. The total cost of exiting the relationship was roughly $12,000. The cost of staying? Incalculable. I made the decision at 11:30 p.m. I closed the laptop. I brushed my teeth in the guest bathroom and slept on the couch. I slept like a baby. The next morning, the sun came through those expensive floor-to-ceiling windows. It hit the hardwood. It was a nice apartment. I was going to miss it, but I knew I had to leave it to make the break clean. I made coffee. French press. I poured 2 cups. She came out of the bedroom around 8 a.m. She looked tired. She was wearing one of my oversized t-shirts. She probably thought this was the makeup phase. She expected me to say, "I'm sorry I was cold. You deserve the world. Let's go look at leases." I set the mug down in front of her on the island. "We need to talk," I said. She climbed onto the bar stool. She wrapped her hands around the mug. "Okay, I've been thinking about the conversation last night," I said, "and I realized we have a fundamental incompatibility regarding finances and lifestyle goals." She frowned. "Nolan, it was just a comment about a car. You don't have to turn it into a seminar." "It wasn't just a comment," I said. "It was a reveal. You value the display of wealth. I value the accumulation of security. You want a partner who validates you through material gifts. I want a partner who builds with me. We aren't aligned." She laughed, a short, nervous sound. "Are you breaking up with me over an Instagram post?" "I'm ending this because you tried to manipulate me into spending money I don't want to spend by attacking my masculinity. That shows a lack of respect for me and a lack of understanding of who I am." I kept my voice even. No shouting. This was a briefing. "I'm not the guy who buys the Range Rover, Bianca. I never will be. I'm the guy who retires at 50 with a paid-off portfolio. You're not going to be happy with a guy who offers you a spreadsheet instead of a key fob." She stared at me. The reality was setting in. "You're serious." "I am. But we've been together 2 years. We have a life. We have a shared lease and some furniture. We don't have a life. We have a coexistence that is becoming increasingly expensive for me, both financially and emotionally." I slid a piece of paper across the counter. "I've written down the logistics. The lease is in my name. I will pay the rent for this month and next month. That gives you 45 days to find a new place. I will cover the movers. You're kicking me out. I'm giving you 6 weeks of free rent and a transition plan. That is more than fair. I'm going to stay at a hotel for a few days to give you space to pack your personal effects. I'll come back on the weekend to help coordinate." She started to cry then. Not the silent, pretty crying from the movies. Messy crying. You can't do this. You can't just flip a switch. I haven't flipped a switch, Bianca. I've just stopped ignoring the data. We don't work. You know we don't work. You're constantly frustrated that I'm not more, and I'm constantly frustrated that you don't appreciate what is. I stood up. I had my bag packed by the door. I'm going to the office, I said. I'll text you the hotel info in case of an emergency. Otherwise, let's keep communication to logistics. I walked out. The next 3 weeks were a masterclass in operations management. I stayed at a residence inn for 5 days. It was sterile, quiet, and efficient. I got more work done in those 5 days than I had in the previous 3 months. When I returned to the apartment to begin the separation of assets, the atmosphere was thick. She had moved into the guest room. We went room by room. The couch, she said. I picked it out. I paid for it, I replied. I have a receipt. It was $2,400. However, the color doesn't match my future plans. You can have it. Consider it a parting gift. I let her take the couch. I let her take the dining table. I let her take the TV in the bedroom. Why? Depreciation. If I fought her for the furniture, it creates drama. Drama takes time. Time is money. By giving her the used furniture, I bought silence. I bought a faster exit velocity. It was a write-off. The hardest part wasn't the stuff. It was the social friction. 3 days after I moved out, I got a text from Sarah, the Range Rover owner. Sarah, you're a real piece of work. Dumping B because she wants a nice life? You're cheap and you're insecure. I looked at the phone. I could have typed out a response explaining the nuances of net worth versus income or the predatory nature of luxury car leasing. I could have explained that wanting a nice life is different from demanding a partner subsidize a luxury lifestyle. Instead, I deleted the thread and blocked the number. I don't argue with people who don't understand the basic principles of economics. Sarah is a consumer. I'm an allocator. We speak different languages. It was during this transition period, maybe a week before the final move out, that I ran into Dave, Sarah's husband, the Range Rover guy. It was at that coffee shop near the train station, the one where they actually roast their own beans. I was grabbing an espresso before a client meeting. Dave was in line. He didn't see me at first. He was staring at his phone, his brow furrowed, looking like he was trying to decipher a ransom note. Dave, I said. He jumped. He looked at me, and for a second, I saw the panic. He thought I was going to confront him about the text his wife sent. Hey, Nolan, he said. He looked tired, not just sleepy, worn down. His suit was nice, but his posture was a slump. Good to see you, I said. Saw the new car online. Looks sharp. He winced. It was a micro-reaction, but I caught it. Yeah, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. Sarah loves it. It's a beast. Big commitment, I said. Tell me about it. He let out a short, humorless laugh. The lease terms were aggressive, but you know how it is. Happy wife, right? Right? I said. Market is tough right now, he added unprompted. Commercial volumes are down. Everyone is sitting on their hands waiting for rates to drop. It's a grind. I nodded. I see on my end too. Shipping volumes are inconsistent. I'm pulling doubles just to keep the pipeline full, he said. He looked at me with something resembling envy. I heard you and Bianca split. We did. I'm sorry, man. Don't be, I said. It was the right move. Different priorities. He looked at his coffee cup. Priorities, he repeated. Yeah, must be nice to just make the call. He didn't say anything else, but he didn't have to. He was trapped. He had the car, the wife, the image, and the crushing pressure to sustain it all on a volatile income. He was a cautionary tale standing in a Brooks Brothers suit. I shook his hand and walked away. That interaction was the final validation I needed. I wasn't losing a competition with Dave. I was opting out a game Dave was losing. 2 weeks before she was set to move out, Bianca tried to renegotiate the contract. I stopped by the apartment to pick up some mail. She was there, packing boxes. She looked smaller. Without the performative confidence, she looked young and scared. "I've been looking at budgets," she said. She held up a notebook. "I can cut back. I can cancel the subscription boxes. We can stop doing the Friday dinners." I looked at the notebook. It was a genuine effort. "I appreciate that," I said. "So, can we try again? I don't need the car, Nolan. I just want us." This is the moment where emotional men falter. They see the distress, their protective instinct kicks in, and they cave. They think she's changed. She learned her lesson. But people don't change their fundamental values in 2 weeks under duress. She was bargaining. She was facing the reality of the rental market in the city on a single income, and she was terrified. She wasn't missing me. She was missing the safety net I provided. If I took her back, the resentment would build. She would resent living on a budget to please me. I would resent having to police her spending. We would be back in this exact spot in 6 months. Only I'd be 6 months older and more tired. "No," I said. "Why?" "I'm trying. Because you're doing this out of fear, not out of alignment. You want the luxury life, Bianca. There is nothing wrong with that. But I'm not the vehicle to get you there. If you stay with me, you will always feel deprived. If I stay with you, I will always feel used. We're done." She threw the notebook into a box. "You're cold. I'm realistic. The day she moved out, I hired a cleaning crew. I wanted the apartment scrubbed. I wanted the physical traces removed. I walked into the empty living room that evening. The couch was gone. The rug was gone. It echoed. I ordered Thai food from the place down the street, not the expensive fusion place she liked. I sat on a folding chair I dragged in from the balcony, ate my pad thai, and looked at the city view. I pulled up my banking app. In the month since the breakup, my credit card bill was down 40%. My stress levels were down. My sleep quality score on my tracker was up. I thought about the Range Rover again. I did a quick calculation. The lease on a Range Rover Sport is roughly $1,200 a month with $5,000 down. Insurance is another $200. Gas is $300. That's $1,700 a month in post-tax income. That requires roughly $2,500 in pre-tax earnings, depending on your bracket. Over a 3-year lease, that is $90,000 of gross income set on fire for a car that gets you from point A to point B the same way my sedan does. But the cost isn't just the money. It's the obligation. It's the golden handcuffs. It's the inability to quit a job you hate because you have a lease payment that demands you stay. Dave can't quit. Dave can't pivot. Dave is a slave to the Range Rover. I took a bite of my noodles. I felt a profound sense of lightness. The world tells men that we need to be conquerors, that we need to display our kill, that if we aren't draping our women in furs and diamonds, we are failing. That's a lie sold to us by the people selling the furs and diamonds. Real ambition isn't spending money to look rich. Real ambition is having the discipline to build a fortress that no one can knock down. I'm building my fortress. It doesn't have a red bow on it. It doesn't have a logo that impresses strangers at valet parking. But it has zero debt. It has liquid reserves. It has freedom. Bianca is out there looking for a prince with a lease agreement. I hope she finds him. And I hope, for his sake, he likes working overtime. As for me, I closed the app. I finished my food. I opened my laptop. I had a projection to finish. And for the first time in 2 years, I could work without waiting for the other shoe to drop. Comparison is the thief of joy. But solvency? Solvency is the bedrock of freedom. And I'm a free man.
Thanks for listening.